it going, everybody? It's me, Logan ISL, and welcome back to another video. Today, we are back with yet again another video on my opinions and predictions. Today, we're going to be taking a deep dive into the next area release for JToH, Garden of Eeshöl. Yes, that's the official pronunciation. Confusing name, but for this video, I'll be shortening it to JToH for short, so it's easier to follow. JToH is a very unique area, however, as it's going to be the first of the Guardian subrealms. For those of you who do not know, in order to finish World 1, the Great Inferno, you must complete all 4 of the Guardians to be able to have access to the final stretch, which will be the last challenge for you to complete the world. In terms of the subrealm itself, it will be located inside of Ring 2, and it has a garden theme with future sci-fi-like technology. I'll explain this more in a little bit. Today, I'm going to be taking a look at all that we know about this new subrealm, give my predictions as to what I think it will serve, and also share what I think of it along the way. So what do we know about the subrealm itself? Unfortunately, not much. In fact, in my eyes, this is the least amount of information that we know about an upcoming area before release. The amount of information that we know is extremely low. As of this video, we only have 2 teasers. After the towers were confirmed for the subrealm, we got the first teaser from Psy, which really doesn't show much other than a little bit about the theme for JToH itself. It's an image of what looks like an automated robot planting a flower with the following message: "Please don't step on the flowers." Thursday night though, we got a second teaser, which showed us a little bit more. This is the second, and as of this video, most updated teaser for JToH. On the top left, we see what I would think to be some sort of robot. If you take a look at the bird itself, it looks like there's some sort of camera on the right eye, stating how it's awaiting further instructions. On the bottom right, however, is the only actual image of JToH itself that we have, Camera A21, showing a sprinkler that is low on water and is requesting assistance. Putting these 2 images together, I can give you my take on what the theme for JToH itself is going to look like. The official theme that we have been told for JToH was a garden with futuristic technology. So basically, I think these AI robots, as shown in the first picture, as well as the surveillance in the second picture, work together to try and maintain the garden itself to make sure everything is in working order. I would like to guess as well that the main lobby building for JToH is likely going to be futuristic. It's a very unique theme that I haven't seen before, but I think it's a really cool idea. And hopefully, it's executed really well. Animator also brightened up the image as well, which doesn't show too much more. But from the little bit we got to see, I think it's looking pretty good. The last thing I want to point out is the log on the bottom left-hand corner of the second image. When it was first shown, a lot of people thought that there was some sort of hidden cipher, so people attempted to decode it. So it begged a question from me: who made this picture? Depending on who made it could give us more information. If it's made by someone like Array, who did the Ring 9 teasers, I would be willing to bet that there is some sort of meaning here. I was able to find out the answer. It was actually one of the new developers who made this picture. It was Arabic guy, which I don't really think is known for trying to hide stuff. I even asked a friend of mine who does ARGs if they could see something, and they didn't. So, at least for now, I think this is just a simple decoration for the image, especially since it is a repeating pattern. But if you want to try and see if you can decode it, good luck. Your best bet is using the information on the top left to see if it's some sort of key for a cipher that uses all numbers. But I don't think it's a cipher. There is more to this subrealm than just the subrealm itself. Even getting into the subrealm to unlock it is a little bit different. Typically, you have to find something like a hidden path to be able to get to the subrealm. Well, there is something like that for JToH, but you don't get sent to JToH. You instead get sent to the frigid scrapyard to fight a boss. Yep, in order for you to be able to even enter JToH, you will need to defeat a boss to gain access. SS. SS is a terrifying difficulty steeple for Mount Wait, wrong SS. Hold on a second. Yes. The Soda Slayer. Soda Slayer is the boss that you'll have to beat to unlock JToH. Or so I thought. I was wrong. I got told this a while ago, and fortunately I noticed something was up. I asked Juke, and she told me that Soda Slayer is for unlocking the palace, which I'll talk about in a second. Take this as a lesson to proofread your stuff. But let's talk about Soda Slayer now. Here is what Soda Slayer looks like, and veteran players may recognize it. This is based off of the Christmas 2018 event boss known as the Sprite Cranberry mech. But we don't know if the attacks are based off of it, but we do know some. In June 2021, Juke stated how the Soda Slayer would have some sort of jetpack on it, which I think would be used as mobility and animation for attacks. But as I will get to here in a minute though, this may be scrapped. June 12th, Juke states how Soda Slayer's animations are about 75% done, and that the scripting remained. In this message, she also confirmed how it would be a single player boss, not a multiplayer one. Juke also talked about how Soda Slayer could also serve as multi-purpose, and how Soda Slayer means more than people actually think. I have no clue how Soda Slayer could prove to be more useful than an unlock. Maybe defeating Soda Slayer could give you some sort of advantage later on? Or an item? It's too tricky for me to tell or get an idea. However, there is basically no new information on Soda Slayer at all. To make matters worse, the information from earlier about the attacks is likely severely out of date. In September, Juke made a decision to go ahead and make future bosses smaller in scale, and that it would be toned down for Soda Slayer. Due to this change, it pushed Soda Slayer into the next stage of development, as the scrap attacks would be used later. In terms of how Soda Slayer's development is going, later in September, she went ahead and said that polishing in the bug testing phase was close, and that Soda Slayer was 99% complete. We didn't get to hear anything about it until 2 months later, when someone asked how some of her projects were doing, and Soda Slayer was listed. She stated how they're mostly all on hold, but Soda Slayer entered its last phase of development. In November, we would get the latest teaser we have of Soda Slayer, a low quality image. The most recent bit of information we have on Soda Slayer is when Juke had her status a couple months ago saying SS entered testing. This is the last time we have ever heard of Soda Slayer, and how it's doing now is a complete mystery. One question you may have about Soda Slayer is how hard is it going to be? A while ago, Juke did a basic ranking for the bosses in difficulty, and Juke placed it in between Obama Prism and Hot Chocolate Demon, back when the fight was in very early development, which in my opinion is a pretty good place for it. Considering it's an unlock for the palace, I think it should be decently tricky, but not that bad, which is exactly where she has it put. But speaking of the palace, let's go ahead and talk more about that. When the Guardian idea was first conceived, a new tower type was born, the Palace. Basically fancy talk for saying a tower with a boss fight at the end. The plan was, you would have to complete the tower, then do a Guardian fight at the end. If you won, you would beat the Palace, defeating the Guardian. But a lot like the Soda Slayer information, the information we have on palaces comes from a while ago, and is very hazy and could be very outdated. A palace actually did break ground for Eeshöl all the way back in June 2019, and was originally called Palace of Robotic Nightmares, which caused a little bit of a problem when you took the acronym of it. So it was renamed to Palace of Mechanical Nightmares, but it seems like it was scrapped a couple months later, as no mention of it made it past then. But its fate would be soon talked of. In September 2019, Juke announced that palaces were deconfirmed, marking the end of Mechanical Nightmares. 2 years later, in March 2021, palaces were brought up again, with the future of them uncertain. No consensus was made during this time. But in June, which I like to call Juke's favorite month of the year, a consensus could have been made. Juke said that the palace would be hard or difficult, but this was all the way back in June, before GOE's contest started, so this information could be insanely outdated. A lot like the Soda Slayer, last time Juke said anything about the palaces was back in November, where she was talking about the final stretch. Back to Eeshöl though. I have no idea if Juke said something somewhere and I never saw it, or if I am the lucky one who gets to confirm that Eeshöl is having a palace. No matter what it is, I am very happy that I noticed something was up, and that I cleared a bit of misinformation up. But this isn't the actual reconfirmation of palaces. This has been done already. When you do the LaRuam backrooms and kill LaRuam's first shadow, a mention about his palace is said, so we did know that they were coming back in some form. Either way, I suspected that there was going to be a palace for Eeshöl, because of the strange number of slots in JoE. Originally, there was going to be 11, which is a really weird number that I couldn't see modern JToH using, especially in a contest like this. Top 12 would have made sense. But they added 2 more slots to make it 13, so a palace would make the number of slots in JoE 14, which I think is a number that makes way more sense than 13. My prediction for the palace itself: I think the name of Mechanical Nightmares will actually be kept, and it will be a factory where Eeshöl creates his robots and stuff for the garden. But it won't be a tower. I think the palace will actually be a citadel with 15 to 20 floors. To access the Soda Slayer boss fight to open the palace, I bet you'll need to do some JoE stuff. I predict that the psychologically unsafe section for JoE will consist of the challenging steeple in both of the intenses. This stuff will be like extra content, like how in Toya an arcane area is locked until you get the crystal. I think the palace itself will be around mid-challenging. That is how I think the Guardian fight will work. Now, let's have a little bit of fun and try and guess the lore. Yes, it's lore prediction time! Blocker, I hope you're in the back of your seat because it's time for some game theory like shit. Who is prepared to cringe? I sure am, so let's get right into this. Basically, in the real world, when you died, you got sent to hell for being bad, and you're trying to go ahead and escape it. But the 4 guardians have the portal to heaven, locked at the top of the obelisk in the Great Inferno. Because you're naughty, you decide to go the route of trying to kill all the guardians to be able to access the portal to be able to go out. So, you go to Eeshöl's garden to try and kill him. Because Eeshöl controls the garden, after defeating him, everything in the garden withers and everything gets ruined. I know this sounds stupid, but when your leads for lore are off of basically a couple segments of information from a JToH shadow in the backrooms, it's pretty terrible. This is the best guess that I got myself. Let me know what you think in the comments. Fortunately for you, lore prediction time is all done. Unfortunately for you though, that's all the information we have on JoE itself. But I think there's a huge aspect that I think a lot of people do not think about. Progression. When Phone Snapping and Big Hole were released in Ring 2, the requirements for Rings 2 and 3 were nerfed down. But in the process, they created, in my opinion, a massive jarring gap. Ring 3 only requires you to complete a hard tower. Then for Ring 4, you only need to do 2 more hard towers and a difficult. It's a super jarring jump in my opinion, and it makes the progression extremely strange. But with JoE, the slots for it are insanely beginner friendly. 3 easies, 2 mediums, 3 hards, 2 difficults, a challenging, and 2 intenses. Basically a beginner's paradise, full of easier stuff. So if modifications were done with only 2 additional towers, a subrealm full of easier stuff I think is inevitably going to cause a shift. Plus, the final stretch obelisk is confirmed to be intense difficulty, and Ring 9 requires a remorseless? It doesn't make sense. Wouldn't the last thing you do, requirement-wise, be the hardest thing? It's the finale. I have a feeling that the infamous Ring 9 remorseless requirement is going away after JoE's release, and that the requirements for Ring 4 to 9 will be heavily nerfed upon JoE's release. Remember, there are more Guardian subrealms being made. Who knows what those slots are going to look like? JoE, upon its full completion, will give the player a total of 7 tower points. But I have a question that I think may be worth putting up. You have to do JoE to be able to complete the world. It's a requirement. You can choose what to do in the rings and other subrealms, but in JoE, you have to complete it to some degree. So could it be possible that JoE gives no tower points at all? I may sound insane here, but I have a reason to think this. There are at least 2 Guardian subrealms left. I don't think JToH will have one due to the backrooms and shadows. If they also gave 7 points each, if you completed everything, that's a total of 21 tower points obtained by just doing subrealms. You need 60 for Ring 9, before even accounting for palaces if they gave them. Wouldn't this make progression way easier? That would account for almost 50% of your needed points. Although, we have no idea of how the Guardian subrealms will work. could there be a possibility where the subrealm is just for towers, and there's a whole separate thing for the Guardians that make completing towers optional? Well, I highly doubt it to both things. I think JoE will give points, but I thought it was worth bringing up. Plus, I doubt you'll need to do everything in JoE to be able to get to the palace. But I am 80% confident that the requirements for the later rings will be nerfed after JoE's release. However, there's another side to the coin. Maybe because of JoE, they could not change them because of the options that are there. There's so many more horrors, and there's 2 difficulties for you. But honestly, I don't think many beginners will find JoE, and I think the devs know that, so my position remains. But nerfing the requirements down to make it easier will only help so much. It's nice that the difficulty requirements are easier, but if you can't get the points due to those easier requirements, then you're kinda stuck. Like when you unlock rank 7, you could be stranded because you're not good enough at the game. I think there could be a possibility, actually, of difficulty requirements for rings being removed. Because in order to complete the world, you'll need to do the palaces and the obelisk, which will force you to get high intense skill level, no matter what. Now, before people say, well, all of these nerfs and whatnot make the game too easy, I think I know what Juke is doing, and I think it's super smart. Anyway, I think she's making a difficulty system for JToH. Let me explain. World 1, when finished, I think will be pretty easy, and the obelisk is high intense, which really I think shows where she wants to go with it. But World 2 will be significantly harder. I think in the end, you'll be doing a mid-remorseless obelisk, if there's one, for World 2. Then, if World 3 happens, that would end off with a high or peak remorseless obelisk, utilizing all the non-soul-crushing difficulty territory for the game. I think slowly but surely, we will be seeing a lot more beginner-friendly content in World 1 to get players to have a chance at getting somewhere in the game, to only have their skills tested later in the 2nd and 3rd worlds. However, with this, I still doubt that their difficulty requirements will fully be removed for the rings, but I think it's a possibility to still think about. I think in terms of progression really, JoE is super important, and no one really talks about it. So finally, let's now get to the meat and bones. When the hell is this subrealm coming out? Well, if there's one theme that I have seen with JoE throughout making this video, it's that my research has only given me a lot more questions than answers. Like, what is happening with Soda Slayer? What about the palace for Eeshöl? I'll try to share my predictions to the answers to these questions. Firstly, I think the palace isn't coming with JoE. We haven't heard anything about it. And granted, we barely know anything about JoE itself, so it would make sense that we know nothing about the main gem of it. But I think it is so unlikely. I just can't see a palace being made that quick and whatnot. So unfortunately, I think we will need to wait. On to Soda Slayer. In order for me to explain what I think happened with it, I need to explain JoE testing, which requires me to explain how bug testing for JToH works. While we don't know for sure exactly how it's done, from what has been told, what we do know is that there are 2 phases. Phase 1 is fully done by Vendetta. He plays through everything and fixes stuff up himself. Phase 2, everyone in the JToH team goes in, and does the second phase to get the area out. Typically, Phase 2 of testing takes less than 48 hours to complete. Typically, I like to wait a bit and get more teasers before making the opinions and predictions video. But this time around, I couldn't, because Vendetta stated himself that he's more motivated to bug test this time around. Which is really good news. PA in Zone 5 took around 2 months for testing. JoE testing started around a week ago, on the 23rd of January. Well, Vendetta wasn't lying. As of this video's editing, and if he updated it again and you're watching the premiere, I will say this in chat now, the last time he updated bug testing progress was on Wednesday. Yes, we get to see the progress again. How it's going? 5 tested, 4 fixed. On the first day of testing on Sunday, he did 2 towers, so testing has definitely gone quicker than what we are used to. So that's how testing has gone. In 4 days, including Sunday when it started, 5 towers got tested. Now let me explain where I think Soda Slayer goes into this. I think JToH did phase 1 of testing for Soda Slayer a couple months ago. I am very 50-50 on if Soda Slayer is coming with JoE or not. On one side of the coin, I do not think that Soda Slayer is coming with JoE. I think it will be released with the Palace. This is because, since it is a requirement to unlock the Palace, I feel like it would be considered to be dumb to have a boss fight that leads into nothing. It would feel weird to hear all this story stuff that the boss will likely have, then lead to a WIP portal. On the other side of the coin, I think it is possible that it will be released with JoE, since it seems that it's very close to release. It could be used as a sign to show that the Palace is having something done to it, especially since JToH at least seemingly started testing it. I have my prediction for the release date, but I will not be saying it until JoE comes out in my release livestream. It's a very complicated reason that I will need to explain in a video. And for those of you who think they know why, no, you don't know the full story. But I will give you some hints as to what my thought was coming with my prediction. Vendetta's bug testing, at least so far, has a pattern. If you take a look at the 2 times he's shown his bug testing progress so far, see if you connect the dots. If and when you find it, do you think he will stick to that pattern? When his 3rd update shows up, did he follow it? Let me know what your prediction is in the comments below. Thank you everybody for watching. Hopefully you learned something new. Thank you to my members who spend $2 a month or more on some special perks. My name is Logan ISL. Hopefully you're excited for JoE because I certainly am. I hope you enjoyed and have a good rest of your day. See you all later. Bye bye.